All right, awesome. Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm really pumped about today. I'm super excited about the topic. Have a lot to feed in. Yeah, basically from a week of the work that I do. So many great inputs from parents and teens in the Young Fire Academy program. So yeah, my inspiration always comes from there. It's always somehow that's how I just keep speaking about these topics, specifically about how to empower teenagers from a parental standpoint. I work with the teens. That's my main work in some ways. So I'm always and have been now for 20 odd years or so looking at really what teens want. Like, what can I actually give to teens? What can I actually do with them in a tutoring session, mentoring session, coaching session? That's kind of been my journey from tutor to coach, but I still work with the maths, I still work with the English at GCSE level. So yeah, I've always wanted to know, what yeah, that's what I spent my life, my adult life doing, really, is like what's genuinely needed in that situation to serve a teen. And I've gone right down from the kind of superficial academics down into, yeah, deep just motivation, finding purpose. The center of our program, the Young Fire Academy program, is to find purpose, to enable self-direction, motivation, responsibility, and through the three methods of fun, trust, and choice. They sound simple, but they're three things that we don't have very much of in our schooling systems, for example. So very profound for teenagers to meet them with those three things. For me as a coach and a mentor, and also for you as a parent, fun, trust, and choice. Keep those three things lively in your household and in your relationship through the teenage years, and you'll have a much easier time of it and get much better results. But of course, all of those words can be interpreted in a certain way, so probably you'll need to stay in my world for longer to really understand what I mean by those three things. Okay, so yeah, today's topic is about intrinsic motivation. It's tapping into what teens really want, revealing in a way, getting teens to reveal that to us, revealing it to them, peeling back the layers, reaching teenagers really to know what that is. And let's take a hypothesis for today that we want to get our teen to study more. That's a kind of, if that's not your thing and you just want them to be more less kind of phone obsessed, less kind of couchy, more just have more interest, be more proactive, be more engaged, then great. This is also for you, but we're just going to use studying as a a hypothesis for what I'm going to speak to. I can't think of another word. Yeah, it doesn't matter. To me, I don't distinguish. Self-direction basically is self-direction. So when I work with a teen, I don't really care whether their self-direction, first of all, comes in from outside school or in school, because I know that finding motivation, finding purpose, getting a taste of that responsibility, that ownership, just leads to more of the same. So whether we find that in maths, that will spread to then the other subjects if we do. If we find it in outside school activities, setting up a business, becoming a pro surfer, whatever. These are all like things that teens have done within the time that I've worked with them. That comes then straight back into school as well. They can bring that mindset to school, that sense of basically a sense of dignity, not to completely waste their time anywhere, to actually get stuck in, be engaged. That's where it's at. So yeah, as a parent, you might just be thinking, how do I get my teen to want to do it more? Yeah, and it's a great question. In some ways, we don't get them to do it. That's one thing. Like, we need to drop off that level of responsibility, that sense of responsibility. Ultimately, it's going to be up to them. But of course, there's a lot we can do as a parent to enable that, and as a coach too. So yeah, thinking of studying, what I love about studying is that there's absolutely no way that we can control what a teen is doing in their study time. We just can't get into our own child, we can't get into their mind and see what's going on there. When we look in a room and they're like the books are out and they're sitting there, what's going on? We have no idea what's going on there. We have no control at that point. And I would suggest that we don't have much control of a teen anyway at a certain point because they're growing away from us. We cannot tell them what to do in many ways at that point. So, yeah, but when they're studying, especially, you put them in a room for a couple of hours with their books, and we have no idea. Probably if we're having to make them do that, there's probably nothing going on in there, like really next to nothing. And we probably know that in our heart of hearts. If the student doesn't genuinely care, if they haven't established in themselves, despite this coercive education system, and despite the overly directed ways of being educated and parented, probably, if we're honest with ourselves, if they're not driven basically to teach themselves, if they don't want to learn, then that's the first thing to address, in my opinion, as a coach. And so that's where we're coming down to, like, okay, before we get the maths and English books out, let's establish some really important things. So Sal Khan, the founder of Khan Academy, I read his phenomenal book, The One World Schoolhouse. He there's a line in that just like bang, it just was like a huge light bulb moment for me from my own experience. And he says something like, it's not the exact quote, I've just couldn't find it, but he wrote something like, until a student takes responsibility for their own learning, true learning can't really be said to be taking place. Like and at least that's what I took from it. And that's true. Like, until a student takes ownership or responsibility for their own learning, I don't think it's really learning. Like, it's night and day in my experience seeing a student who's just passive, showing up because they have to, playing the game with parents and tutors and teachers, and a student who really is like, Henry, tell me, I want to know how to do this, coming to the sessions going, okay, I've got these 3 topics I want us to cover today. Wow. And we probably also know in our own experience when we want to learn something, when you're like on YouTube looking up something, trying to research how to do something, that's like, you're just like, give me the information. There's nothing going to stop you. You're there to learn. So, yeah, we sometimes, well, I do a lot of work to get students back into that place of clarity, because they can be so confused by the process that they've been through with their learning, just like how much that ownership's been basically taken away from them, and that they weren't given the choice in the first place. So that's the choice element of the Young Fire Academy approach. They have no choice basically about going to school. They don't have any choice about which subjects they learn until very late on, and it's pretty negligible how much choice they really have within the few subjects they're offered anyway. So yeah, I also wanted to just, for any parents, that any of you that are out there watching this that are falling into this trap, we can't do it for them either. We can't be motivated for our teens. So if I've met many parents who are far more motivated than their teens to do their GCSEs. So literally, parents, and I'm saying this for humorous reasons, but also so that we can go like, oh, that's me. Parents doing like French vocab at midnight with their child because their child just couldn't give a monkeys about the French test the next day, but the mum is like sweating it, so like going through it with them, doing it, reading it out to them. The kid's like lying in bed, the kid's probably even literally asleep, and the mum's like desperate to kind of do well in the test the next day. Wow. Yeah, watch out for ending up in that sort of trap. Also, mums who've like watched all of the videos for, I don't even know quite like why, but just to check them out, the videos on Inspectacles, Lord of the Flies, getting in there on YouTube and doing all the stuff even that the school are providing for the teen, just to know what it is, to get in there so they can talk about it. Teen couldn't care less again. So like that is you've got to get out of the way as a parent, and that's completely overwhelming for a teenager who doesn't really want to do it, to have their mum do it first and tell them how great it is. And that's like the kiss of death, probably, for any possibility that they would show up to that video. Yeah, and also, of course, I know this. I know that all of this comes from complete devotion to your children. So I'm not poking fun in an unkind way. I know that this is a pure wish to serve your child and to help them and to set them up, of course, for life. GCSEs can seem like the biggest deal. They are quite a big deal in the system. They're not the be all and end all. Not when you've got drive, purpose, motivation, like in life in general, then I don't think there's too much of a problem. But yeah, other ways of just trying to kind of parent your child into the right way of being organized and buying all the stationery and like, there you go, darling, and you can organize all of your notes. And again, the child just has not asked for that, doesn't care about that, doesn't want to do it that way, might be kind of neurodiverse and doesn't have the same way of working. And so the stationery stuff just sits there like untouched, or it becomes part of the kind of mess of the room, not part of a nice ordered foldering system. So yeah, and also just in terms of study time and like hours of work and hours of revision, like it really, wow, it's important that we distinguish between time and actual immersion or impact, like the time, that the amount of hours spent studying, like what is that measurement? I remember 10 hours of studying in a library as an undergraduate, and it was worthless. Like, I mean, I had to be honest with myself. I kind of knew at the time I was just sitting in the library, and I thought that maybe there would be a good result from that. But I was not really, I wasn't, there was, I don't know, people to talk to. There was the coffee machine. I don't know. There was the cafe. There was other things to do, not phones in those days, but it would have been my phone probably if there was a mobile phone in those days. But yeah, so I know that from my own experience, the difference between it. And I really, with the teens I work with, I'm urging them not to waste their time like that. Not to kid themselves that they're doing anything dignified or productive when they're not. So there is no dignity in like faking working for your parents' sake or to yourself. Some teens are also kind of kidding themselves that they're like, hey, I did a few hours of revision, when they're really just like, mostly kind of scrolling, organizing, responding to messages, like whatever. So yeah, many parents say this. She says she's studying, and then I go in and she's always on her phone. There you go. So students actually have to want it. So for me with teens, that's why I always ask them. I always want to know, like, what do they want right from the beginning? Right from the beginning of meeting them, I want to know. And the parents usually come to me. They're like, okay, parents are probably saying, they're not doing enough. They're not doing enough schoolwork. Like we're fighting. That's also, there's lots of other reasons why parents kind of come to me, and they want their teen to have a mentor. They know they can recognize that there's something super powerful about having someone else come into the family at this stage, kind of to get to know the parent side, to get to know the teen side, and to work things out for both parties. But yeah, often it can be, like they're just grades is really low, and they're bored, they're so bored and frustrated. I just want to see them kind of the love of learning preserved and or enlivened, and I want them to fulfill themselves and not to be frustrated, and to do that, to have all the doors open in life and all those kinds of things. Okay, so, and then I hear the parents saying like, wow, I wish they would do more maths, or wish they'd do more English. Then I speak to the child, and I'm like pretty radical in those first 10 minutes. That's just is how I am with them. I am radical. I'm not a school teacher. I would never be a school teacher. It would have to be a very progressive or particular type of school. There are some schools out there that I think are awesome, and I know everybody, while school teachers don't take it personally or anything, I understand we're in a difficult system for everybody. But yeah, asking a child what they actually want, being one of the first people to do that, to come in and just go like, what's going on? Let's just ditch all of the kind of presumptions that you have to, because if you don't study, then you won't get any GCSEs, then you won't have a life, no job, there'll be some sort of death or something at the end of it. It can really feel like that for parents and teens in this, let me just say it like this, toxic system. I mean, that once you get to that kind of point of like five GCSEs or my life's over, that is ridiculous and really poisonous for young people and for their parents. So once I speak to the teens and I start really asking them, like, what do you want? Like, what do you actually want? Like, what are we doing here? Do you want to do this? Like, I'm straight up with that. I don't want to work with anyone that doesn't want to work with me. And so, like, do you actually want help here? Like, what can I help you with? Do you want to even carry on at school? Like, why don't you quit school? I just like to throw out questions that demonstrate to them my level of openness. And it's true, I'm not faking that. That is how open I feel. I really want to know what they can get behind. I want to get their buy-in for whatever we're about to do. I want to know, let's be on the same page. I'm not going to presume anything or bring my adult agenda to you. And I am often the first person, I feel, with authority that comes in as like that. And so they're like, wow, what do I actually want? If I could do anything. And it's beautiful always what they say in that sort of space when they really feel like they can think about that and reflect on it. And what's interesting is that they very often say, well, I would actually quite like to do better in my maths. So you end up, you're like, wow, okay, there's so much natural responsibility there. There's a lot of noise between the parent and child, and so there's a lot of kind of pushing away, and that's developmental. That's what teens kind of meant to be doing, is pushing their parents away. So of course, parents pushing them to study, they're like, no, I'm not going to study. But actually, so they often both want the same thing. So that's what is really exciting about my work. So there can be a lot of opposition at home, but it's very powerful what a coach can do, what a mentor or coach can do in that middle space. So from a parenting perspective, empowering intrinsic motivation, trying to get your kid to do it for themselves, it requires trust. It requires trust, like a high level of trust. It requires a leap of faith. It requires releasing control. So it's definitely a gig for the parents as well. It's not just like, hey, it takes quite something. And for some of us, that a huge amount of I don't know what, guts, basically, guts, and a wish for change, a recognition that the current approach is not working. I mean, you have to get to that point in some ways where you're like, okay, we're getting terrible results here with me, like trying to motivate them in all the other ways, me trying to get them to do it, me taking responsibility for it, pushing in whichever way, in the nice kind of sugar-coated way, which is just as nasty, by the way, as the full-on Sergeant Major way. I mean, it's just as corrosive. We've got to release control, be prepared to no longer police them, be prepared to not make them do it anymore, including emotional blackmail and whatever other forces are at play that are triggering them, and a lot of work and also emotional energy for you. So this is where we step into like a win-win parenting, basically. Win-win parenting is again, just, it's such a beautiful thing. This is what's so incredible about the work I've ended up doing, if I may say it. I mean, incredible for me, just from a satisfaction point of view, is that it's so great for both parties. It's just exactly what both parent and teen need. And it's doing a lot less, from a parent's perspective, doing a lot less, stressing a lot less, to achieve way more. I mean, really like profound results in teenagers who are given this, the openness, the trust, the love, the space, the respect to find themselves in this way, to find their own motivations and not to have that clouded by fighting against authority, really, school teachers and parents. And really, teens are desperate to find their own way, and so they should. And so we should wish that for them more than anything at this age and stage, because otherwise probably they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to find that. You know, we probably did, or do, or are. Yeah, so you know, this is the time. This is the time when they're teenage for them to really find themselves. And what we can do as a parent is we can step back, and that enables them to step up. But like I say, it's a leap of faith. It doesn't come overnight. It's not easy to live with what comes up for you. But, you know, in doing that, this is really, we're also giving our teens the gift to learn the real lessons. Anyway, you know, these are the real lessons aren't maths and English and 9s or 8s or 5s or 6s, whatever grades you're getting. The real goal is in finding purpose, your teen actually being driven, like taking on their own lives for themselves, starting with school subjects and then just sweeping up into this, like, you know, great sense of what they like, what they don't like, what they can achieve, you know, how to do that, like finding their own agency. That's the real goal. It does not matter what they do in their GCSEs. You know, if they're going to have to learn that hard lesson that they fail their GCSEs, well, so be it. You know, like, I'm sure you've done everything and whatever to try and avoid that scenario, but there's probably some big life lessons in there, and then you will be hopefully pleasantly surprised or amazed at what can then the lessons, if that can be, they can be, those lessons can be lovingly like supported to be learned. You know, they're not to be that huge amount of judgment, criticism, blame, acrimony, conflict and whatever around that. If it's just like, okay, what should we do now? You know, you'll be amazed how a teen will find their start to find like what they do want to show up for, like A levels, their sixth form, whatever they go off into, and also in life, in business. You know, the business successes, like, wow, when you ask them about their schooling past, loads of them complete failures, like dropouts, and a lot of fire in their belly from that time of being judged and judging themselves as a complete loser. And someone who's like falling way behind, and then like bam, here they come in their entrepreneur years, and there's nothing stopping them. So, you know, it's not all about GCSEs. You know, there's a much bigger picture here, which as a parent we want to be very aware of. We want to take the long view. It's a long journey. The real results we want are lifelong, not like week by week, month by month. You know, having to tell everyone, oh, they didn't do that well in their GCSEs, big deal. Basically, you just got to suck it up. Like for a few months, that's the big deal. But then, you know, this really, we're playing for the main result, which is like a happy, healthy, driven, purposeful human, you know, successful in that way when they're in their 20s and onwards, you know, finding themselves, like I say, finding out like what they're about, not what we are trying to make them about as a society, as a parent, as a schooling system. So yeah, they've got to find themselves outside of that. Great. Yeah. And like I said, at a certain point anyway, this move to like take a leap of faith into trust and to step back so that they can step up, to make that space for them to hand over, to just emotionally withdraw yourself, you know, not in a cold way. I don't mean that at all. We're completely there for them, totally there for them. But just to take the sting out of like them needing to be like perfect grades the whole time, or even just average grades the whole time, or whatever it is for you. At a certain point, you've got no choice. It's a choiceless choice with teenagers to trust, because you can't tell them what to do anyway. They will fight you, or they will just say no, or they'll find a way out of it. They'll pretend they've done it. They'll gameplay you. They'll just, whichever one they are, whether they're show it all outwardly or do it all inwardly, they will just, it will fester away until you realize that actually they cannot be made to do what you think is right for them anymore. So trust is it's inevitable. And so yeah, I would recommend, I would spare yourself the conflict, basically. Spare yourself. I don't think there's any benefit from it. Spare yourself the family conflict, the heartache, the loss of mutual trust and respect, the sheer pain, and the potential for, you know, lifelong legacy of just distrust between you, or loss of connection between you. You know, get on the same page with them, be with them, love them, support them, stay together. It's the be all and end all for me in many ways. From all of this, as a tutor trying to motivate teens to do maths, I've ended up here with like, okay, wow, we need like happy families first of all. Nothing else matters compared to that. Plus, that's the way that you're going to motivate them in their maths as well. So maths and English and everything. So yeah, retire. That's a word I've often used. Retire from fussing over them, micromanaging them, nagging, taking that responsibility kind of off them, like feeling like that's your job. That's not your job. That's not your responsibility anymore. Sorry, I should say that's not our responsibility anymore. I mean it like that. So I'm not attacking anyone. We're all in this together as parents. It's not our responsibility to get them to get their schoolwork done. Actually, it's literally not. It's more the school's responsibility, actually. So don't let the schools also play you like that. Wow, through the pandemic, I was horrified by the pressure that parents were under from schools. So yeah, school. I understand. I don't want to have too much of a pop at schools as well. They're under a lot of pressure too, especially at that time. But yeah, it's up to our teens. It's their life. They know the system. It's like, do they want GCSEs or not? Like, what's the plan? What's their plan? And you know, if not that, then what? Let's make sure, you know, we can have those conversations with them. We want to be having those conversations with them in a way that is palatable, where they're not defensive and just kind of bullshitting us or whatever, just fighting us over it. We want to be just going like, are you okay? Like, you know, I'm worried. I am a bit worried, but like, I'm happy to leave you, you know, just in that kind of way. Like, I want to leave you to it, but I'm worried, you know, GCSEs are important, or, you know, share. You've got to have that forum to be able to speak to them like that, so they're actually listening. So if you don't, then don't speak about that kind of thing. You know, you've got to rebuild the trust first, but ultimately let them do it their way. You know, the best way for a child to do their GCSEs is their way, with minimal noise, interference, pressurizing. You know, then you get into this labyrinth of like, they don't know what their drive is. We've completely disrupted that natural drive of them. We're in the way. We're literally in the way of them finding what they want to do with that and growing through that process, way beyond just grades, but actual personal development, proper personal growth of confidence, self-esteem, enjoyment, participation, engagement, all that. So okay, I've got like a little bonus insight also about motivation, is just that our children are never going to suddenly start like showing up at home doing all the right things, like whether it's in home or in school, like housework. You know, they're going to be contributing and doing their schoolwork if we're on their case the whole time, you know, blaming, judging, criticizing, resenting. That is never going to get the right results. I don't think a good result. And if you're getting terrible results from that, then great, you're in the right place. You know, the fundamental basis for motivating our children is authentic, loving, relating, holding them in the highest regard. We cannot give up on them like that. Stop believing in them. We cannot withhold our love as a kind of bribe. We need to be respecting them and their choices, however crazy they may seem. Of course, we want to keep them safe, but you know, ultimately, we need them to start to make their own choices anyway. So yes, we can guide them, but we need to at least be able to listen to them and hear what they have to say and respect them on a basic level before we might enter into further discussion with them. We need to provide them with a home and a relationship of safety and empowerment. You know, no motivation is going to come. Very little authentic motivation is going to come if we can't do these basic things. They've got to feel safe with us, feel safe at home in the relationship, and feel supported, empowered, really, to do it their way, to do their thing. They need to be able to make their own mistakes and learn from them safely with us, where we're not just like, I told you so. You know, if we've boxed them in, we're like, I don't know what's the expression, cutting off your own something to spite your, cutting off your own nose to spite your face. So like some parents, I know, and with all my compassion, I feel for us when we get into this kind of situation. But some of us are in the game of like trying to prove our kids wrong, trying to prove that they can't be trusted, trying to prove that they're like a this or a that. And like, really, who wins then? Who wins when we've like proven that to be the case? It's just the most dark place that we can end up in. But many of us end up there because we feel so lied to by them, we feel so rejected by them, we feel so hurt by the fact that they're moving on in this way or whatever, and so we start attacking them, but we're really attacking ourselves and them and everything when we do that. So very important to stay loving, connected. Doesn't matter how much pressure we've got around us about GCSEs, conventional pressure, it's bullshit. Be lovingly connected, have fun, find ways to be fun, and make sure that they feel completely accepted and that they belong. That's like the deep stuff on motivation. So like without that, forget it. Like any of this other stuff I'm recommending is not going to happen. So that's the basis. So the essential foundations are basically the core values of our company, core values of the Young Fire Academy. This is how we work with our team, with my wife and with our virtual assistants. And this is how we work with every parent and child that we have in the community. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Core values are love, trust, openness, honesty, respect, commitment, and fun. Chucked in a few extra ones to what we usually have there, but that's how it works. That's how relationships work. That's how teams work. And as a family, you're a team. As everyone supporting a teenager, I think of us all as a team: coach, teacher, parents, all the other people in that teen's life. We're a team, and I want all of us to be bringing those core values through our work: love, trust, openness, honesty, respect, commitment, and fun. Yeah. Okay, so in terms of getting your kid studying and motivating them, the leap of faith into trust, it's not easy. It's a brave leap. The thoughts will keep coming back. Am I doing enough? It's not a comfortable place to be, especially when we're used to controlling. We used to they do everything that we tell them up until they're like 11 or 12. Like it's easy in some ways. Not for everyone, but can be much easier in the teenage years. Like now, like, whoa, we feel so much comes up for us. We feel completely exposed. We're no longer in the mothering role anymore. We're not like satisfying ourselves by like getting stuff done, serving them, like making sure they do everything right, or whatever it is, like looking after them, pouring our energies into them and feeling the reward of like, yeah, they're doing so well. We've got to get off that ride. We've actually got to get off that ride when they're teens. We've got to unhook ourselves from that satisfaction for ourselves when they get to this age and stage. So sometimes I say in the parent program, we've got to get a life. And I say it like that because I want it to be like bam, like startling. Wow, get a life, and I mean shift your focus away from obsessing around your teen, our teen. For some reason, I'm really with the second person pronouns today. I never normally am, but anyway, forgive me. I don't mean to be attacking, but yeah, we've got to shift the focus away from our teens and get off that ride. It's over. That ride is over. It's a great time for us to get a job, to like develop a new passion and hobby, to like get stuck in with something else. Our teens don't need us fussing over them anymore. So take that with your own discernment. It'll either land with you and you're like, I know exactly what you mean. Don't take the extreme of like, hey, just neglect them, abandon them, like stop caring for them, stop giving them the support they need. I don't mean that at all. It's more just like, wow, when it's totally counterproductive, when it's self-defeating, when you're shooting yourself in the foot and you're both disempowered because of your actions, that's the time to like shift the focus and do something else. Like be brave. Your kids are growing up, and I know I don't mean this flippantly, but yeah, it's time to move on for everybody. And the sooner you can do that, the better. The sooner you can address that, the better. To just go, okay, listen, I'm going to leave you to manage your own thing. I'm still here for you completely. And yeah, I've got a new part-time job, or like, I don't know, I'm going to start doing this now with my time, and embrace your new time, because pretty soon, the house will be the house will be empty, they're going to be gone. It goes like so quick. So yeah, we'll get ready for that, to brace yourself for that. I always talk about this, so I don't want to get too sidetracked into it, but it's a time of great grief for a lot of parents as well. So I'm not belittling the size of this challenge, but it's a beautiful process to be. This is like the final, probably not the final act, but it can feel like the final chapter of just like ultimate giving, to let them go. Like, we've given so much, but the ultimate gift at this point is to like start to like let them off the reins, start to let out a bit more rope, start to let them go off and have their own life without us, start to really like, enjoy their peer groups and the influences from everywhere apart from us. That's it. It's parenting. Being a parent is the most phenomenal role because it demands that level of personal sacrifice. It's, you just give, and of course we get so much back, but we don't deserve anything back. We cannot, like, our kids don't owe us anything. Like, that's my belief, that they haven't, we haven't, I think that's my belief. But yeah, of course, maybe they do. I just have worked with a lot of parents where I've really felt like, wow, you're expecting so much from your kids. They have to be like this. They've got to do this because I've put in all of this work. It's not like that. So that's what I mean by that. It's not like that, where you put in all this work. You're like, I've done all of this, and now I expect you to at least study the whole time and like be in the career that I want you to be and not the one you want to be in. I'm taking an extreme, but that kind of thing. Watch out for that. My preference is just like complete open generosity and giving to my kids, free reign. I don't expect anything from them. I think that's going to get the best results. I think they will be caring for me more authentically when I'm aging, and showing up in relationship with me better because of that approach. Not feeling like they're beholden to me, they owe me something, and they've got this burden of debt they've got to pay off. Yeah, especially in the teenage years. Who's going to go for that? So yeah, the thoughts, should I be stepping in? We can have a sense of like, this is my responsibility. Maybe you're in a whole group of other parents who are like really like bossing their kids, making them, just that it might look great from the outside, but I doubt it's great on the inside. And I know it's not going to be great in their A levels, and I know it's not going to be great for life. So if you've got parents that are like that, like, hey, it's boot camp time in their house, like, be wary of that role modeling, because yeah, it doesn't work. So yeah, these thoughts of like, should I be stepping in? What if they fail their GCSEs? Am I being a negligent parent? Yeah, they're lying to me about how much they're doing, and they're really not doing enough. They don't realize the consequences of these times, their actions. I don't think they're doing enough. Well, in those times, when those thoughts come up, I mean, one, that they're only thoughts. They're just a thought that'll come up, and then the next day you'll probably feel great. You'll realize how lovely they are. You have such a laugh together. You'll be like, hey, they don't need, and they're going to be fine in life. They're going to have great relationships. They're going to, once they're out of school, wow, the world's their oyster. Once they get these like sucky subjects out the way, excuse me. But if they're like that, they just hate school. Once they get this thing out of their way, then they can really start to be who they want to be in the world. They might find a job that they're like totally aligned with, love it. They're on like radio or something, I don't know, media. There's something completely different from schooling, or they're like very active, they're building, or whatever it is. So yeah, you have it's a roller coaster. So take responsibility first of all for just your own emotions and thoughts. It doesn't mean there's a problem. They're not reliable. I don't know if you know this or have observed this, but our thoughts and our emotions are not reliable indicators really of anything. That's my own experience. I've investigated this the last 15 years or so. My thoughts and my feelings are not reliable as measures of like what's right or what's wrong, what's happening, what's not happening, what I should do or what I shouldn't do. So that's the first thing for parents. Just relax with those thoughts, probably about like, oh my God, what am I thinking? Trusting, not like making them study harder. This is a disaster. Okay, so in those moments also, come back to the fact that you have no other realistic option. There's no viable other alternative. What is it? You're going to go back to trying to force them? and back to like the terrible results that you've been getting through coercion and through the horrible relationships that you have, trying to force them to do stuff, trying to make them do it, trying to take that ownership off them. Wow. I mean, like, you're denying them self-leadership, you're denying them independence, you're denying them discovering their own true selves at this crucial stage. So, and it's the most painful road. So yes, the doubts will creep in. Yes, you'll be worried, but yeah, really, you've got no other options. So just relax and know that, you can keep focusing on the love, the trust, the openness, keep asking them what you can do, keep expressing your doubts to the point where it's productive for them. Don't be just venting on them just because you've got, that's what I mean about taking responsibility. Like, take adult ownership for the fact that you feel a lot around this situation for your child, but it's not then productive or respectful or kind to just bombard them with that. So if you need help on that front, get help. Find a way to support yourself. Get some therapy. Find someone who can help you buffer that way of just venting on your child, because otherwise it's going to have a horrible effect on both of you. Yeah. Plus, yeah, the real journey, so the real journey for the teens is not about getting the best grades or avoiding failing GCSEs. Like I've said, if we actually look at that, I've seen some incredible results of students who've totally effed up their GCSEs because they just have realized, like, wow, everything about that was dismal. I didn't show up. I didn't do anything. They've got other friends who are like pumped. They've given it. They've really shown up. They worked hard. They got results, whatever. And everything about their energy is awesome. And everything about this particular student's energy is like, whoa, I completely let myself down. There's a lot of great lessons in there. So, as the years play out, like I've said, there can be an amazing bounce back from that. Not always, but it depends how much we also as parents enable the setting for them to learn those lessons. So it depends on so many things, but one thing we can do as a parent is just continue to love and respect and honor and trust our child, be there for them, discuss with them, make sure they feel completely accepted, they still totally belong to our family. GCSEs, really, who cares in the grand scheme of things? Once it's happened, it's happened. What do they want? Come back again. Like, what do they want? What would be a good life for them? Like, what do they want to do? Get straight into work or study? Just, that kind of atmosphere and that kind of communication is going to help a great deal to make to help those lessons be learned. Whereas the parents that'll prove you wrong and try and tell you that, GCSEs are everything are the ones that will just continue to compound the judgment, blame, criticism, and resentment. That's when things go absolutely fucking bananas. That's when everything can become a write-off. Then you can end up in like really, really wild times, terrible relationships with each other, and awful results. So yeah, it's to do with like how we hold the space when our kids fail, if they do. So yeah. Yeah, and watching teens in the program find their own genuine drive and purpose is just the most heartening thing. So, slowly just beginning to take responsibility for what they do and don't want to show up for. It's an important age and stage for them to stop just worriedly running around with the pack. There's such a kind of strong peer thing here that everyone's kind of doing what everyone else is doing, and that's fine and that's great. And they're forming their safe unit kind of outside of the home, so they're like, okay, we're all in this together, great, we're safe here. It's a bit like home, but it's way more fun because it's a bunch of teens. We're all doing new things. The world's opened up to us. Whoa, everything, hormones, like sexual energy, like whatever, drugs, drink, partying, and also just independent. Most of all, like those are the kind of I don't know how to describe that group of things I've just mentioned, but most of all just independence, like a sense of like, wow, like this, and friendship and connection, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but okay, there's that, but then also like, okay, not getting like lost in that, lost in the peer group, lost in the fact that we're all doing this, it's got to be like this or not. Starting to find out, and this is what I hold a forum for teens, is what the coaching program enables, is a safe space, a genuinely safe culture for really discovering like, what am I in for and what am I not in for? What do I actually, this is part of finding your own genuine self. Like, what am I actually, who am I? What do I like? And what is kind of like not so much my thing, fine for others, but not really my kind of thing. So beginning to establish that and to take ownership of that as well. And I'm not like everybody else. I like things like this in my ways, or this is what I'm committed to. This is what I'm passionate about. And yeah, this is work that needs to be done. Otherwise, you'll be like me. You'll come out of university with no idea what to do. Like, you know, in a way, having not got very far down the line with that. Yeah, and so part of my work also burns from that perspective of like, wow, I came out of university and just had no idea where to start. In terms of like what I wanted. I've been through such a rigorous system. There wasn't enough identifying like my real true purpose and self-direction, motivation, taking responsibility. Yeah, far from it. I was not taking any responsibility, and that went on for a while. So yeah, yeah, and I'm inspired by one of my students that actually her mum told me that she came back home and she just said, you know, all my friends are going to board masters, and the mum was like, oh no, you know, my daughter's going to ask me for like 400 quid or whatever to go to board masters. Everyone's going, mummy, you know, after GCSEs, but I don't want to go. No way. Like a whole lot of kind of smelly, like beery or whatever, you know. And her mum was just elated, first of all, that she didn't have to stump up for a board master's ticket, but also most of all really impressed by the fact that she just knows herself in that way. She's getting to know herself. She's clear on like what she likes, what she doesn't like. Just because everyone's going to board masters, she does not want to have anything to do with it. So very happy to be doing her own thing. She's also set up her own business, you know. So she's doing her own things, you know. And for some of them it's like wanting to improve in maths for their own sake. Like, you know the way it works is just either you're enjoying it and going for it and you're into that, and we get into it, we're getting into like immersing ourselves in the subjects for the sake of it. You know, I've often said this as well, like there's no real point studying any of these subjects unless you love them. And then, yeah, you know, ancient Greek, Latin. I did ancient Greek and Latin, and I love them. You know, completely irrelevant subjects in a way, but not when you love them. So once the love starts coming in, once the atmosphere in the community and through the coaching, the way I build relationship with teens, once they feel safe and free to kind of do what they want to do, learning maths in that environment is awesome. You know, it's exactly what it's meant to be, which is a great vehicle for learning, for self-development, for personal growth, for taking on challenges and overcoming them, or, you know, resilience. So yeah, it teaches you everything. English too, how to think, how to deal with an intense like essay question. Wow, what an overwhelming challenge, but so powerful when you can actually identify your own thoughts and opinions, you know, structure them, back them up with evidence. Boom, it's like very bad. And just how to write, how to communicate in an effective way. I'm not into mark scheme kind of you know, tick box sort of essays. I don't know, most essays I read are a complete mess until I've worked with the students to actually be bold enough to paragraph properly, as they're often taught, but very few of them do. Yeah, to really express your opinion, to be brave, go for it in essays. It's totally exhilarating, and a skill for life, of course. Yeah, so, you know, it's to do with like working, students finding like how to work for their own personal sense of satisfaction and reward, not for anyone else's, you know, not for mine. It's never just like homework for Henry, although they do a lot of work in between. Usually that's the whole thing's really to do with the work that they do in between the times they see me. That's the self-direction. For me, there isn't really any learning going on until a student's self-directing. So yeah, it's essential that that's driven by them, and that they tell me what they want to do each week, and then I give them the resources. We meet weekly and discuss how it's going, keep them accountable to themselves, and that's how coaching works. Asking the right questions of them to unlock kind of what's in the way, any hiding places, any ways in which they're in sort of deluded or in denial about what they want, how they're going to achieve that, and whether they're actually doing that week to week. And for the students, it's just to do with the building the self-trust that they can show up for themselves. They're not going to flake. They're not going to snooze on this particular. They're committed to doing this, and of course then they can take that into anything they want to do. They know they've got the capability. If they can study for maths GCSE, English GCSE, any of their GCSE, if they can carve out that time, learn how to do that at home in their own time, put the phone to one side, block out the messages and also the invitations to hang out or something. Just go, no, I really, really want this maths GCSE. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do 2 more years at some college to get my GCSEs after everyone's finished it. I want to get wherever they're at in the spectrum. They want to get an 8, want to get a 9. I've got to get a maths high grade to get do sciences or something at physics at A level, whatever it is. So learning those skills, that self-regulation, that it's more satisfying to get their work done, to show up, to do their job. That sometimes is how I also speak about it. This is their job right now. Nothing else. That what their job is school, whether they like it or not. That's what they're spending 5 days a week engaged in or not. But if you're going to be there, to me, there's only one way of being there, and that's to show up. To show up, and same thing with their homework. Once you can actually prove to yourself that you can get your head down and do some work, and you can feel the satisfaction of that, and just it's building that kind of self-trust, self-discipline, then that is the beginning of self-leadership for adult life. So feeling a sense of meaning in life beyond just drifting along. I'm just reading what I wrote, the final line of the notes. Feeling a sense of meaning in life beyond drifting along aimlessly in systems of other people's creating. Not a bad line. Including parents, peers, and siblings. So, it's really finding your own genuine individual self. So, long video, but I hope it's been useful. I would love to hear in the comments what's resonated for you, what's landed for you, what you're going to take away from this video. It's here freely for you to learn from. Of course, we're here for you as well. You can check out the Young Fire Academy. There's possibly links there, or you'll find us on Facebook or on the World Wide Web, as someone was saying, Radio DJ. So hope that's been helpful. It's a real passion topic for me. It's both simple and very challenging to manage this, to manage our own wishes for our children, and to enable them to really do it their way, and to create their own drive, to find ultimately to find their own motivation within all of the pressures and the noise, to be studying hard and whatever. They've got to understand why. So again, that's a lot of the work that I do. All right, great. So good, everybody. So happy to be here. All right.